We're live. Art, thank you very much for taking a bit of your time on this Tuesday afternoon. It's a pleasure getting to know a community leader like yourself. But before I get to know about your community and all the wonderful work you're doing, I want to know about you, the individual. So let us know who you are. Like, who's Art really? Where are you from? What's your background story?
Yeah, thank you for inviting me. It's always a pleasure to talk a little bit about our journey. I think sometimes we're so busy in doing and trying things, and we kind of, it's good to remember where we come from, what is our goals, etc. And well, a little bit about myself. I've been living in Porto for almost a year and a half. I moved here from Tel Aviv with the goal of living in Porto. The decision was mainly for us lifestyle, and we really fell in love with Porto when we first visited here. We said, "Yep, that's where we want to live." And when I moved here, my background is in startups. I have a startup. My first startup is in cybersecurity. It's still ongoing in Tel Aviv. It's called Bright Security. The specifics of that, if anybody wants to know more, happy to talk about it. Reach out.
You can go as in depth as you want, literally.
Well,
It's about you and your work. So
of course, well, for my life right now is no longer an active role there. It's more on what I'm doing here in Porto, and I am working on another startup. It's in a very early stage. We're still building the prototype. But
you can promote it a bit if you want here. I won't tell.
Still in stealth mode, so I'll keep
that's good.
I'll keep everyone in suspense for a bit more. But more interestingly, that's what I would love to talk about, is more about my journey here in Porto from the community building sense. So I think it would be helpful if I just tell my story, I suppose. When I moved to Porto, I knew for a fact that I have the founder's itch. I wanted to build something, to do my next startup. I was very eager to do it, especially with all the AI now blowing up. I found that it's super fascinating. It's a technology I've always been fascinated with. Even before it was called AI and all the buzz, I was doing machine learning before and was very into that.
It really helps you like put ideas into practice faster without needing so much as a technical background, for instance. I've been feeling a lot about that in Cobuntu. I have an idea, and the next day I can have it up and running in production. It's quite fast and it's helpful for us.
Yeah, absolutely. It's putting these things that were previously you needed to be very technical and very skilled to automate, and now you can do it at the top of your fingertips, and you can really move as quickly as your thoughts almost, which is incredible time. Of course, the quality will depend at the end on what you want to see and how you view it, but it does cut a lot of the manual work out of the way, and that's amazing. And even before I knew that, it was so amazing, and I wanted to go back into AI purely from the technological perspective, because I always found it very interesting how we can
curiosity, right?
Curiosity, how to make knowledge and build these kind of things. So I had this itch, and I knew I'm going to build another startup. I also knew I didn't want to do it alone. Right? Done it before. I know the journey and how hard it is. I wanted to build it with co-founders. And that's how I started. So I reached Porto. I had this founder's itch, but I didn't have a network. I didn't know anyone. And I realized quickly that kind of network that I use, like I had this thought in my mind, okay, I'm gonna go in here, I'm gonna look up a few startup ecosystems, and then just go introduce myself, start to meet people, pitch my ideas, and find my co-founders. Unfortunately, that's not how it happened. I quite quickly, I was going to meetups. I found meetup.com. I was looking for groups, and there were some
just scrolling endless events and all that. Yeah,
events happening, and I was essentially going to almost any somehow business-related meetup that I could find. But I found myself kind of repeating the same pattern over and over, where I would go there. People would talk a lot about entrepreneurship and business, but most of it was not my world. It was real estate and hospitality and small business, things like that are, of course, absolutely very valid businesses and incredible people work there, but it's not my world. My world is
Exactly.
product is now AI. So I kind of felt isolated, and
You felt a bit frustrated from that. Did you lose a lot of time? And
I also felt a little bit stupid because people
oh,
are telling me there's so many startups here and there's great people and great talent. But I would talk to people individually. Yeah, I would see that. But am I that bad at searching that I can't find those groups? I
no,
felt
but one thing I have to give it to, like social anxiety fears you, because I can't just scroll Meetup and go to a random event. I'm not that type of guy.
well, I did that. I went to events that even slightly related. I went to board game nights because I knew interesting
Okay.
people go there, and developers and my people, the geeks who like D&D and stuff. So I said, okay, maybe I'll meet some people there, and I did meet people. It's not that I couldn't, but there wasn't really an established
Exactly.
place where I could really connect and have the conversation that I wanted to. A pivotal moment for me was that I stumbled upon this small group on WhatsApp mainly, and there was a little bit of business talk, but there were some really good people there. And when the founder of the group left and the group kind of died down, the momentum of it, I felt there was an opportunity here, and I was faced with a dilemma. Essentially, do I step up and try to
Take charge. Yeah.
open, or do I just give up on the dream and listen to my friends and family's advice, basically telling me, don't do another startup. Porto is not the place, just go get a job.
They don't understand.
So I decided to give it a chance, and I stepped up. And my hope was that there are other people like me feeling the same. And you know, within very very short time, that little spark turned into
Emerged. Yeah.
fire. I
I have
was
a question for you about that. Sorry. Like you said, you were meeting various people on Meetup and on that WhatsApp event eventually. But do you value more the business aspect when you're searching for your type of people? Do you value more the business type, if they're founders, if they're in your area, how experienced they are, how old they are, all that more technical stuff or experience stuff, or do you value like more the personality? If you weigh both things on the scale, sorry, if I can fit it here. If you weigh both things on the scale, what's more important for you when you're diving into this world of community? What are you tapping into exactly?
It's a very interesting question because it's like asking, what do I prefer, apples or oranges? I think there's a place for everyone. There's a need for different perspectives, different interests, different skill sets. I can't answer the general. I think in our community, especially, one of our values and one of our strengths is inclusion and diversity of everything.
Good.
Ages, experiences, industries, whatever. And that is one of our superpowers because by mixing these worlds, we found amazing interactions. We find
You
perspective.
amplify.
For me, I had so many aha moments sitting around the table when someone who is talking about their industry and their challenges really set something out of in my mind. More specifically for my challenge, for the problem that I had at first, which was finding the co-founders that I was looking for. I had a very clear skill set in mind that I was looking for, and it was a mix of business and technical. So I was looking for a co-founder, and I was looking for another business marketing co-founder. So, well, I already knew what I was looking for because I had the experience, but I don't think there is a right answer. I think depending on your company, depending on your problem, you're going to have mixes of that. You might have 80% technical skills needed, and you might have 80% business skills needed, depending on what you're doing.
And 5% people skills.
People skills are always there and should be there.
You just need to bring them up like in the right environment, I think.
Well, when I say business, usually what I think of, and I think that's what most people think, is more like the skills needed to build something, to define the value, define the offer, maybe the legalities of things, maybe the operation side of things. That's when I think about business. And technical is writing code, doing some things. that's
You pass that over to the AI. It's fine. They'll do it nowadays.
more and more, that's for sure. But it's not that there's not enough work. There's
Yeah, absolutely. Tell me about it. So you were saying that you started going on Meetup and events and searching community in general for the ecosystem, for looking for your own co-founders for your company, but eventually decided to create your own community. And I get the sense that you created your community, and correct me if I'm wrong, you created your community out of that need that you felt when you were searching for your people to create your own community, right? So
Yeah.
how did that happen? Like when did it click? And how did it click? And how did you make that happen? How does someone who's not from around here, not from Porto, you just came to the country without knowing anybody, literally, and you just created an ecosystem. You put people together. That's it's a rare skill for someone to have, I would say. So tell me a bit about that. Sorry.
I appreciate that. Thank you. I don't think I've ever thought I will be here doing that. It wasn't something I was planning on. But as I realized that it doesn't take much to do this, all you have to do is set the table, invite great people, and it just happens. You don't have to do more than that. And that's what we did. You know, once I took over and started to build this community, well, the first thing was giving it an identity. So called it the Porto Business Network, something that anybody who's here can relate to. It's living in Porto. We want to build our lives, our businesses here. Then the next thing I felt that was super important is to create a consistency. I did see and felt many times that something interesting is happening, an interesting event. I've met, there was cool people there, and I said, yes, I would love to see more of those.
But you don't have time, or something like that happens.
Yeah, but then 2 or 3 events later, they just stop doing it, and this momentum disappears, or people move on, or something was not there. So I said, okay, what we're going to do different is we're going to be consistent. So we started with our first event style, that was our brunch. It's now one of our most successful events, where we just meet around the table and we just talk. The goal here is not to sell to each other, is not to kind of boast or whatever. The goal here is really to get to know people and connect and talk about their perspectives, their challenges, the topics that are interesting to them, and
give them a stage for them to be themselves. And everything emerges from there, literally.
And I found so many interesting topics, so many interesting ideas, and great people that we helped each other just by talking about what we care about at the moment. It's not pitching yourself. It's about saying, hey, I'm new here. Let's say I'm a photographer, and I want to know how it's done here. That's my challenge right now. Who can tell me where should I go? Who should I talk to? I'm not selling to anyone at the table. That's the point. It's literally, I'm trying to understand how am I supposed to move forward here. And at the table, there will always be someone saying, oh, I know, here's some advice for that. Here's how I suggest you do this. And we've already seen amazing collaborations. And another thing that was very important from a community perspective for me was to really set the values. This is something that I've seen it happen with communities before, and I've also seen it with any organization of people, like a company, like a startup. You have to have a certain clear value system that people agree and want to be part of. Makes it just more smooth, right? Because it's just,
and that's connecting to the branding that you said initially, like, because people get attracted to your vision, your mission, the warmth of your community. Like when you said, hey, I'm a photographer, I'm not here to sell anything, I'm here to expose myself, be vulnerable in a sense. And if you create this sort of environment where vulnerability in that sense is welcomed, then I guess people will just be more attracted to you. And I'm sure that's part of one of your values, like inclusivity in that sense, like be yourself. You're not trying to here to pitch anything directly. You're here to connect via your struggles, and then you meet people via your struggles, and perhaps maybe solutions emerge from that, and you both grow. That's kind of it's good when you create an environment, but this is very difficult to do, I think. It's good when you create an environment where it's kind of self-managed. And that's a lot part of the culture and the values you have to imbue in the community you've built. So that takes a lot of people skills, I would say.
Yeah, well, the good thing here, and that was my amazing surprise, was that I didn't need to do it alone. I set the table. And then amazing people started to show up and come back. And the same values that were already agreed on or we discussed them, people would embody them.
No problem.
So what were we? So I was saying, like, this is actually a good place to pick up. So you mentioned that at the very beginning, and sometimes even now, perhaps, like people join the events, there's a lot of engagement, people connect face to face, new people come along. It's very interesting. There's new dynamics and nuances being created. But after the events, especially in the beginning, how do you handle like the engagement? Like how do you retain people's attention and presence offline or online?
That's an excellent question. For us, it was very important that we facilitate real connections, okay? Real friendship, real connections. The events are just a way to do that. Our ideal outcome is to connect people, is to make sure that people work together, collaborate, help each other. So of course, communication is a big part of that. And essentially, we try to experiment and do different things of how people would communicate in a way that is, on one hand, convenient and doesn't require people to change their habits too much, but at the same time, not too intrusive of their personal life, etc. So we found the easiest for now at the scale that we're at is to have a WhatsApp group. We separated the group into a community with certain types of groups and topics, and people can freely go in and out of those topics, just that so that they won't have any noise on topics that they don't like. And that was enough. That was, people just connected. They would join WhatsApp. They would find people. It does require a little bit of effort from our side to make sure that the topics
to moderate and all that. Yeah.
But once we divided it into these groups, 99% of that just disappeared, because I guess it comes a little bit from my product experience that if you want to make sure people behave in a certain way, the best way to achieve that is not to tell them what to do, is to make the thing they want to do the most convenient and the most easy. So they just naturally gravitate towards doing that.
It's like a labyrinth. You put the walls and they just start going through the course you set out.
If you name a group, startup founders, then the topics are going to be related for startup founders. So it works. But of course, it's always evolving. We're working with the community. Sometimes people come to me. I can give another example. So a lot of people are asking me about topics like legal, accounting, things that could be challenging for someone new here or in general. I said, I know a few lawyers. I know a few accountants. How about we just create a group called Legal in Accounting? Put someone there in charge, and people join and people ask questions, and I don't need to moderate it. It's clear from the name what you're supposed to talk about in the group.
So in a sense, you're facilitating value exchange already in your community. Okay, that's good. And how many people are in your community at this moment? Do you have a clue?
So we officially started in, I would say, November 24-ish. Okay. We were around 50 at the time, and now we're more than 300. So we had a really massive growth in less than a year, and it keeps growing from month over month. It's just incredible.
And if you look at like the type of persona in your community, like their founders, their business owners, like their network just branches out everywhere. So it's a highly valuable group of people you have put together. It's really cool. And you're already facilitating value exchange in that. So in a sense, you're creating a sort of not only a circular economy where people help each other, like promote services, help each other do legal and financial stuff, but also fight like the emotional side. Like people are there for each other, they're supporting each other. That's a very, very cool ecosystem you've built on there. It's amazing. And my next question would be like, you mentioned, okay, this is a good one. You mentioned you were trying to separate or trying to find the best ways to maintain engagement in a way that's not intrusive for your members, right? So you want people to be engaged, be aware of your community, what's going to happen, the events, but at the same time, you want to be always poking their phone or changing their habits too much. That's part of work-life balance in a sense. How do you manage your work-life balance? Because you are a founder, and as a community leader, like managing community discussions, moderating forums, starting meetups, it takes a lot of work. How do you manage your schedule? And don't tell me it's like a premium Notion subscription. I won't buy for that.
That's a good point. Well, first of all, I thrive on that kind of tension in my own life. There's a reason why I like building startups, why I'm attracted to this kind of a lot of work lifestyle. But the real answer is I just don't do it alone. I have people who help me. I try to help, ask for help. I tell people, look, this is what we need. I'm not going to tell you how we should achieve that. Do you want to take ownership of that? Great. Tell me how let's meet once a week. Tell me how it's going. I may give you some perspective from my side and suggest some things. But at the end of the day, you cannot build something like that alone. I wouldn't even want to. That's the antithesis.
That's not the point. Exactly. Those are people from your own community who do that?
Of course.
And do you have like roles, like this person is in charge of this specific task and this person is that type of person? Or do you like cycle and rotate every time?
No, we have clear roles. We're structuring it exactly like I would structure a team in a startup. Of course, it's not exactly the same thing. It's a volunteer-based, but we want people to be owners of their own responsibilities and to have the decision power and to learn and improve in that role. Of course, we help each other a lot all the time. If I need to do a LinkedIn post and I want someone else's advice on that, we have a group, we discuss about it, we have a meeting. But I believe that rotating too much, it could be useful, but in this case, we have clear goals that we want to achieve. And the purpose is to continue building the community, continue providing value, and that takes time. So
what are your current struggles nowadays? Like you sound like you have literally everything figured out. You're in an ascending path, like from less than a year to over 300 people. You mentioned your problems at the beginning were finding the right people to start your company. And then it was starting the actual community, like getting to know how these nuances work. But right now, in a more mature community stage, what are your current struggles in the typical day?
I appreciate you saying. I really appreciate you saying we're a mature community because I feel like we're just getting started. The struggles are, I would say, similar struggles that every community has. We still want to grow. We want to make sure that we are continue to provide value for our members. There are some other challenges like finding the right venues sometimes for the right events. Sometimes we really want to do an event about a certain topic, but we don't have that person having that topic. So there's always these kinds of things. Of course, we never have enough time to do everything, so we have to prioritize. But you mentioned about my struggle, but I actually wanted to say that there's a happy ending to the story because I actually did manage to find my co-founders for my startup here in Porto, here in our community in PBN. And that's already, for me, it's worth everything. Even if I spend a year of my life building it and then I put down the gloves and move away, I've already gained so much more than I put into it. So it's already been incredible.
That's awesome. So what do you see if you continue with this community stage, like you're still like the main figure of this community? Where do you see yourself in your community in like 2 or 3 years? What's the dream or the vision you would have?
Well, we are building towards it. I would say that in the immediate future, our plans for let's say next year, because we're still structuring some of the things. Of course, more events, more workshops. That's the core, that's the bread and butter of what we do. We're also building a members portal, so it's going to be easier for community members to connect, to work together, to reach out to each other. And we're planning to really start to systemize some of the matchmaking that we see that's already happening in the community, but we want to scale it up. We want to match founders to founders, or partners to partners, or mentors to mentees, and
perhaps even outside people to speak in your events. For example, like you mentioned, you lack certain knowledge in your community that you would like to offer.
Yeah,
I get it.
The goal again is to have a group of people that I would, at any given point, see any one of those people in the group as friends or friends of friends, and people with a like-minded approach to business, that we're here to build, we're here to create something valuable for others in this world. And I can always get advice or get help from a friend that's doing a similar thing. It's like, between us, community
Yeah.
leaders, right? I know I can always come to you and say, hey, look, I'm at this point in the community. I know you've been doing it for longer than me. What did you do when you were this dilemma, right? What was your solution? And that's all you need sometimes.
Exactly. I really like the mindset you have in this sense, which is like you created a community because you felt like a pain point that you wanted to solve, but you didn't create a community for yourself. You created the community because you thought, well, what if other people feel this pain point of not having their group in this area? And the type of persona that I see in you as a community leader is like, you're the community leader in the sense, but you're not the main guy in the stage. Like the community is the main stage. That guy over there is the main stage. The other guy is the main stage, not you. You just let things revolve naturally as they happen. That's a really cool insight. And one question I had to ask you for, now that you mentioned this, is what advice would you give to any people that would like to create their own communities or are just starting to create their own communities today?
Actually, people did reach out to me and ask about how could they do something similar in other places like Braga and places in the area. So I did give them advice. I would say to start from those three things that I've mentioned. Start from an identity, define what it is that in the beginning creates the most possibly broad shared sense of definition, right? We live in Porto, or we love football, or we love Vinho Verde. That's the thing that brought us together to the room. And then the second, I would say it's very important to have consistency, because it takes time for people to get to know your community and to realize. And even if I did an event and a lot of people showed up because the first time we did it, but second time we did an event, less than half of the people showed up because I don't know why. Everybody has their own reasons. Not to take it personally and say, look, I need to continue doing this event and continue to having a place for people to know that's always there. That's a very important part of the community, and I feel a lot of people are giving up too early and expecting things to happen overnight.
Yeah.
Things are not going to happen overnight. Takes months.
Why do you think people drop out?
I felt those feelings myself. The feelings of why am I doing this? It's taking so much of my time and energy, and it seems like it's not working. I get those feelings. I feel sometimes people take responsibilities on themselves, and especially like in my case, without knowing exactly what to expect in terms of the commitment. Just people realize it's more than they asked for, and I believe they have better things to do with their lives, and that's fair. But in my case, my stubbornness is is a trait that helps, and also it did help that I had a little bit more free time. So I think it was just fate, I guess, that I found this thing, and I had, and all this extra energy I had the the time to put it in. But now it's not exactly the same. Now I cannot do it by myself. I have to have others.
But it's good that the space you've built starts to run itself eventually. So it starts to compound on future tax on engagement, I would say. It's very cool. Okay, so from my side, that wraps it up. That's amazing what you've built. I really love getting to know ecosystem builders like yourself and the people that you're putting together. I hope to meet them someday to join one of your events. For sure, next time I'm in Porto, I'll hit you up. And thank you very much for your time. I love this. Let's keep in touch and talk again soon. Maybe we can repeat one of these things someday.
Yeah, thank you, Diogo. Really appreciate you taking the time and doing what you're doing. It's also incredible work.
Thank you.
Thank you for reaching out.